Hello, welcome to Traditional Chinese Medicine, Kinds of Herbal Medicine. My name is Christina Kapothanasis. I am a licensed acupuncturist here in the state of Hawaii, and I am board certified under the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. I am also the executive director of the Hawaii Oriental Medicine and Acupuncture Association. Today I would like to share with you several different aspects of herbal medicine. I have created a selection of herbs for you here today, and we're going to try to understand how they are categorized by the different origins of the herbs, the different thermal properties of the herbs, their coolness or warmth. We'll talk about their different tastes like spicy, sour, and sweet, their different functions, and what kinds of organs they have affinity for. I'll also share with you a little bit about the different forms herbal medicine comes in, and finally how we prepare the raw herbs. So we'd like to start today with some of the raw herbs and the origins of the raw herbs. Most of them are plant origin, but there are a few that come from mineral, as in rocks and stones, or animal origin. The selection that I brought for you today is mainly plants, and of those plants, they are mostly comprised of roots. So maybe we can take a little look at the different kinds of herbs. I've organized them in plant forms starting from the top of the plant down to the root. So here on the corner up here we have 车前子. It's a seed. The small black seeds, they come in several shapes and sizes. These are tiny, like a grain of sand. And we have 梔子, which is a bigger orangey red colored seed. And this is actually the seed of the magnolia tree. Then we also have small seeds like the 酸枣仁. They come in all shapes and sizes and colors. Again, I've just brought a small selection for you here today. We have approximately 450 herbs that practitioners use today, but medical dictionaries have at least 12,000 herbs recorded. They also have different berries. This one is called 山芋肉. It's a red little sour berry, and this is one kind of herb. So we have nuts and seeds. We have different kinds of berries, which I brought 山芋肉 for you today. We have different types of flowers. So this one you might recognize, it's saffron. And saffron is one of the smallest flowers we have. Right beside it we have 小米花, 槐花. This is a little tiny flower bud. It's green, also extremely small. Then we get to larger flowers like the chrysanthemum. You may have had some chrysanthemum tea before, so this is another dried yellow and sometimes comes in white flower that we use. Working our way down the plant, we also have different kinds of leaves. So these leaves, the sangye, these leaves are larger and green. They come in all different sizes and shapes. We have sangjisen. These are leaves that are used along with the twigs, the small branches. And so this is another example of leaf or twig. And then if we come back to the other side, we have bamboo. This is also another leaf that's been cut into stalks. So the bamboo leaf, usually longer, but these are nice yellow color. And then these are flowers and twigs and tiny leaves. We use the whole top part of the plant. This is 白花蛇舌草. And 白花蛇舌草 is it's a little prickly, so when you use this one, we try to be careful touching it. We also use just the twigs of plants. This is 柴胡. 柴胡 is one of the smaller twigs that we use. And a larger twig is the 石斛. 石斛 comes in these segmented, knotted, it's been chopped into chunks like this, a yellow looking twig. And then for bigger branches, we have the bark. You can use just the bark of different things. This example of bark is called hou po. And so you can see on the outside the ridges, and we're just using that outside bark. Another example of bark of a larger plant is the Huang Bo. Huang Bo is quite yellow in comparison to the brown hou po. And then most herbs are made of roots. So these are Huang Lin, one of the smaller roots that you have, and quite bright yellow. They will dye the tea a bright yellow color. So we have bright yellow, we have black. Black color is the shensen. There are a lot of black roots actually. Sendi, there's tons of black little roots. They're hard to differentiate. So this is a larger root called shensen. And then we have a pale yellow color that's in long strips sliced up neatly. And these are called yuzu. The shensen is a bit harder, and the yuzu is very soft and flexible. We also have taizusen. This is also from a root, and it's small and yellow color. And this will puff up when you cook it. And then we have different kinds of grains and foods that you use in your everyday cooking. So the ren is pearlized barley, and we use this sometimes as an herb. If you take an herb or food every single day, then it becomes herb-like rather than food-like. The qualities will accumulate in the body. Another food that we use is tenpi. This is just the dried peel of oranges. So if you can see the orange peel on the outside, these are dried shells. You can see also the adzuki beans and the mung beans we use from food, and raw ginger, dried ginger are other foods that we use. From the minerals, we use rocks like shigao and huashi. They're usually white powders. I'm sorry I don't have the example for you here today. But we also have another powder that looks quite similar to the shigao. This is mu li. This is one of our animal products. These are the ground up seashells of oysters. And so it looks very similar to the shigao powder. They're both white and powdery. And finally, there are a couple that I wasn't able to bring to show to you today, but they are the animal products that we use of different bones. We can use the guiban, that's a turtle shell, the shell of a turtle, and we can use longgu, which are bones of large mammals, and then we also have lu jiao, which is a gelatinous substance made from the antlers of deer. We don't use very many animal products, as I said, or minerals in the clinic. Most of the herbs are plant-based, and if you are a vegetarian or vegan, we can avoid using those herbs if you prefer. So this is the first way that we categorize the herbs. In the ancient texts, they used this kind of categorization to write their books, handwrite their books. So they would start from the different parts of the plants and correspond the chapters like that. These days, we actually go by the functions, and I'd like to add layer on layer to show you how we can deduce the functions of the herbs. The first is the thermal property of the herb. So thermal property just means its warmth or its coolness or its neutrality and that effect on the body. A very easy example to help you understand is when you eat a chili pepper. If you eat something like spicy chili peppers, then you may feel warm feeling in your throat and mouth, even in your stomach. You may feel flush in the face and start to sweat. And then on the other hand, if you had a cool mint tea or had some spearmint chewing gum, you may feel that nice, cool, refreshing feeling. and this is an idea of how foods affect the body. They are either running warm, a ginger is another example, nutmeg, of things that are warm, and cooling like mint and spearmint. I'm thinking of things in your pantry that you may be able to associate with, or even the mung beans, the small green beans that are sometimes used in desserts and cooking in Asia. Those are also having a cooling effect on the body. So the herbs are usually a little bit stronger in their warmth and cooling because we are using the diagnosis that we get from your body, from your symptoms, your tongue, and your pulse to help us put together a formula. If we look at some of the herbs here today, we have cool herbs, neutral herbs. Neutral just means that they don't have a specifically warm or cooling effect on the body. They're right in the middle. Warming herbs, Honghua is warming, Huaihua is cooling, Sangye is cooling, Huang Lin and Huang Bo are cooling, Yuzu and Xuanzhen are cooling. Some of them are colder on the scale, so we can have extremely cold herbs like the Huang Lin. The Huang Lin is probably one of the coldest herbs that I brought to share with you today, or the zhizi, the red seeds of the magnolia tree. These are extremely cold, and the Huangbo, whereas the Yuzu and the Sangye are cold but not nearly as cold in their effect on the body. If we also look at the warm side of the equation, we can see that the tenpi is a little warm, the peel of the orange is slightly warm, and the san yu rou is warm. The little berries, the little red berries, are quite warm. Ho po is a little bit warmer, and so we can try to see their effects on the body. If you're having too cold of symptoms or too warm of symptoms, we will be able to pick herbs that better match your constitution and your current illness. The next categorization method we use is the flavor. So the herbs come in all of the 5 different flavors. We have sweet and bitter, sour, salty, sweet, bitter, sour, spicy, salty. The flavors in themselves have general functions as well that help us again to put together a map of what each of the herbs is doing to the body. So, for example, the sweet herbs will be more nourishing and boosting to the body. They help with deficiencies. They usually help calm people. If you can think of feeling anxious or under stress, people will sometimes go for the sweet flavor to calm them down. This is the rationalization for that. And it also moisturizes dryness. So you can also think if you eat too many sweets, you may be able to recognize that you have a little bit more phlegm the next morning, or your stools are a little loose if you overindulge in sweet food. This is creating too much moisture in the body. Some of the sweet herbs, there are a lot of herbs that have sweet, but in Chinese they say gan, so it's not sweet like a cake, but all the herbal formulas that I put together usually don't taste terribly bitter. These herbs, even the ceqianzi has a slightly sweet property, and the suanzaoren has sweet that's helping to nourish the heart and the liver and the blood. So the sweet, it also has a very calming property from the sweetness to it. But probably the sweetest herb that we have here on the table is yuzu. And this herb, people love this herb in their formula, the yellow tender root that we showed you, because this one does have the sweet flavor. It smells even like bread and butter or some kind of cake. It's a truly sweet flavor. And this herb is specifically for nourishing the dryness in the body. So for dry coughs or those with diabetes, there's usually some kind of dryness in the body, and this is good for nourishing your yin, or the moisture in your and the fluids in your body. So then we can move on to the next flavor, which is spicy. Spicy isn't exactly like the chili pepper spicy that you may think of when I say spicy. In Chinese they say xin. It also includes a dispersing quality. When you have a cold, we say that your cold is in the exterior of the body and that energy needs to be dispersed. So this is one way that the spicy flavor works, to disperse the exterior. The spicy also works in the idea of dispersing internally to get things moving. So we have two things mainly that we can move inside the body, and that's the qi and the blood. So we have herbs that can disperse or have a spiciness to them that helps move the qi or the blood. If we look at, from the examples that I brought today, these two, the flower of the chrysanthemum, the juhua, and the sangye, the green leaf, the larger leaf here, they both have the dispersing of the exterior qualities. They release the exterior and they will help you with colds. Now these two specifically will help you with hot colds. So if you start out with a sore throat, and sangye is especially good for people who start out with sore throat and a raw feeling in their lungs, that dry feeling, because sangye also helps to moisturize the lungs. And juhua will help to with the eye tenderness or pain and headaches that you may have, as well as the sangye. So these herbs and the caihu, we have the twig over here. The caihu will also help with dispersing the exterior and helping you get rid of warm colds, which, like I said, start usually with sore throats and will develop into phlegm that has a yellow color to it. If we think of the qi dispersing interior quality of the spiciness, or the xin, you can think of these two. These are two good examples, the tenpi and the houpo. Tenpi is a more gentle qi moving herb, the peel of the orange. It helps move qi in the digestive system. It's good for building the digestive system and taking out any phlegm problems. When the spleen is weak, it's very easy to create phlegm and mucousy conditions in the body. Houpo, the bark, is a much stronger qi moving herb. This is for people who have a lot of stagnation and bloating in the body, and this one is much stronger for moving the qi and helping get out a distended feeling in the stomach. If you're having trouble going to the bathroom, this can help flush you out. And it's also good for asthma, actually, and taking care of the phlegm that is associated with the restricted airways, and it helps open up the breathing. So moving the qi along again, helping people to breathe better. If we think of the spiciness in terms of moving the blood, we can look back at the saffron. The saffron, the red flower, is excellent for moving the blood, circulating the blood. I usually use it when related to gynecological problems. It's warm and it enters the heart and the liver, and it's excellent for dissolving any stagnation, we say, that's poor circulation, blood clots. If women have different fibroids or cysts and a lot of clotting during their periods, then we would use honghua. We also use honghua for infertility. A lot of infertility uses circulation of the blood herbs, which I have quite a collection of. So this is one example of that spiciness. You can also think of the spiciness to ginger. It's not quite chili pepper spicy, but it has that dispersing warm quality to it that we refer to as spicy in English. The next flavor that we have is the sour flavor. It is the opposite effect of the spicy flavor on the body. When you suck on a piece of lemon, how your face puckers, this is an astringent quality that makes things stay in to the body. So the effect of the sour is to usually hold things into the body. For example, the sanyuro is warm and it has the astringent quality, so it's going to help people that have problems controlling their urination or problems controlling their ejaculations. It can also help deficient people who have problem sweating. This isn't the person that's really hot in the sun beating down on them having a lot of sweat. This is the person that may be just doing some light housework and sweats a lot. That's usually a qi deficiency problem. And for the one right beside it, the small seed, the suanzhaoren, this also has suan is sour in Chinese medicine. So suanzhaoren, the sour small seeds are also going to help hold in the sweat for people who have an excess sweating problem from deficiency. And then some people sweat at night. So the night sweats will be helped by the suanzhaoren for that astringent property that helps things stay in that should be controlled properly. The last flavor, the last two flavors are the bitter and the salty. Bitter is everywhere in Chinese medicine. Some people are scared to take the herbs because of the bitter flavor. Everybody says, oh, Chinese medicine, I don't want to take those. It's too bitter. But not necessarily. Your formula is only bitter if you have damp heat. If you're a deficient person, a lot of people here have yin deficiency, and so their formulas actually usually have more of a sweet flavor to them. But for those people who do have excess heat in the body, the bitterness is good for drying you out. So the bitterness, for example, of a bitter melon that you may have tried, or dandelion greens, some of the leafy greens are extremely bitter, and this helps dry people out. The zhizi, the red pods that we saw here in the front, are excellent for drying. These are good for drying the sanjiao and every organ that it is associated with. Sanjiao is an organ that we can't see with our own eyes. It's specifically in Chinese medicine, but it corresponds to the upper, middle, and lower parts of the body. So upper jiao includes heart and lungs, middle jiao is stomach and spleen, and the rest of the organs are classified under the lower jiao. So this will be wonderful for clearing heat and drying dampness. A lot of the bitter herbs are accompanied by the cool property. So we have the thermal property of cold coupled with the bitter, and that's excellent for drying the damp heat from the body. Huang Bo and Huang Lin are other herbs that are extremely bitter and extremely cold. For Huang Lin, we only use a few grams of this in each formula or less, whereas we may use this whole pile of Shenzhen in one formula. Sometimes you can go as high as 50 or 60 grams, whereas Huang Lin, the very bitter Huang Lin, we just use three or 4 grams of. So this one is excellent for drying the dampness, and this one is better for drying the dampness in the intestines. So if we have a little bit of diarrhea, we ate something bad and got a little food poisoning, Huang Lin would be excellent for that. The Huang Bo, on the other hand, would be wonderful for any kind of gynecological reproductive organs and their associated infections. So if you have the vaginal infection, or even if you have urinary tract infections, this herb focuses more on the lower abdomen and drying out the dampness there. Some of the affinities for organs. We'll try to talk a little bit about the affinities for organs. That just means what organs the herbs have an effect on, which organs the herbs work most closely with, which ones they affect more deeply. So, for example, the cheqianzi, the black seed, is going into your lungs, and it also goes into the kidneys. You can have one or more organs that each herb is associated with, as well as the flavors. You can have one or more flavor. Let's see, this one is bitter and a little bit spicy, and this one is sweet and a little bit bitter. So we can have more than one organ and more than one flavor. The zuru goes into the liver and the stomach. The caihu goes into several organs. It's the liver, the gallbladder, and it also goes into the spleen. So we can see Huang Lin goes into the heart and the stomach and the large intestine, whereas Yuzuk works more on the lungs and the stomach. So we also can help deduce the different properties and functions of each herb based on which organ it has an affinity for. I would like to continue our discussion on the herbs in our next series, where we will be talking about the specific functions of the herbs. We'll try to put together all of the information we covered today on the thermal qualities, whether the herb is warm or neutral or cold, and we'll see how the flavor of the herb comes into play, whether it's spicy or sour or bitter or salty, and then the organ affinity. So if it's working more closely with the kidney or the lungs or the stomach, and how we put those together to help us come up with or how the ancient Chinese helped come up with the functions for each herb. We'll also take a little look at how we brew the whole herbs and what other kinds of forms they come in. So if you would stay tuned until next series, and we will continue our discussion. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you are understanding a little bit about how the herbs are categorized and how that will pertain to your diagnosis specifically. If you have any questions, please call me at the number at the end of the show or email us. Thank you so much for joining, and until next time, mahalo.